Hello everyone, a long time no see. I know it's been a hot minute since I've made a video. Um, and I'm sorry because I basically stopped making videos, I think like after March of last year. And initially it was just because school was getting very hectic and busy, and I fully intended to like start making videos again within a few weeks. But then after that pause, I just was like reevaluating my content and I was like, was it even that good? Like, maybe those videos were cringy, like just different things. And I was like, oh, well, I don't want to. What if an author, finds a video one day and then thinks I was being super mean? Or like, what if I imagine how I would feel if I put my book out there and someone was just like talking about it the way I was? And I was just getting very in my head about my content. But to be honest, I really missed making it. And I wish that I had made more videos because I feel like I went on a real reading journey. I started off the year reading a whole book on the first day of the year, and then there were different slumps and periods where I enjoyed certain books and genres and stuff like that, and then completely switched over to other things later on in the year. And it was a whole trip, and I wish that I'd been able to document it and share it with you. But new year, new me, so I'm gonna try to start making videos again, and I'm just excited to do it. It was really fun, and so I love talking about books, and I'm gonna hopefully do this tag um, so that I can fill you in on different things you might have missed. So the tag is the Contradictions Book Tag. It was created by If Only for a Page, who is a YouTuber. But I actually saw this tag on Bookfuls' channel. Whoops, oh my gosh, my stool. So I will link both. But yeah, I have some very contradictory opinions, especially when it comes to books. And so I'm excited to share them with you. And I'm hopefully going to try to answer the tag with questions or with answers relating to books that I read in the past year. That way I can kind of like fill you in on some of the books that I read. Yeah, let's get into it. Also, I'm a little bit sick, which is why my voice probably sounds different and my skin is blotchy and all of that. But yeah, excuse the sickness. First question, I love this genre, but I didn't like this book. And so for this one, I chose Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. Everyone's heard of this book. It had a very buzzy release in like 2018, 2019, I think. And I was initially, like, it immediately popped up on my radar and I was really looking forward to reading it, and then I didn't, and then it became a backlist read. And then earlier this year earlier in 2022, I saw that Taylor Swift had made a song for the movie. So then it was put back on my radar and I was like, I want to read the book before the movie comes out. I never ended up seeing the film, but I did end up reading the book this past summer. And I have to say that I didn't like it as much as I thought I would. A lot of people were giving it like 4 out of 5 stars, 5 out of 5 stars. And by the way, the book is a kind of like marketed as being like a mystery thriller or like in a hybrid with contemporary fiction / women's fiction. And I like all those genres, but I didn't like this book that much. I gave it like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I had to kind of like push myself a little bit to read it. And then I did, and then I thought that the story was interesting, and at some points it did kind of get me in my feels, but it wasn't necessarily like world earth-shattering, and it didn't rock my world like I thought it was going to. So 3.5 out of 5 stars for that one. The next one is, I rarely read this genre, but I love this book, and I think this is a book that I've already talked about on this channel, but I really, really truly mean it for this one. I just thought it was the perfect fit for the question. And that book is Bad Blood by John Carreyrou, which I actually have a copy of on my shelf right here. Oh, I love this book. I don't usually reach for nonfiction, but this one read like a mystery thriller novel, like a fictional, addictive thriller. And it was just so good, so interesting. It's very compellingly written. And I devoured it. So I loved this book. And I want to read more nonfiction. I kept saying that last year, and I kind of did a little bit. I read a few more like throughout the year, but nothing hit like this one. 3 is, I love this trope, but I didn't like this book. And I'm kind of cheating here because I'm picking a book that I didn't read recently. I read this a few years ago, but I think it counts because a show based on the book series came out last year, and I feel like it dominated my cultural environment at home. My sister became obsessed with the show, and I did watch it too, and I didn't love it, but I liked aspects of it, yada yada yada. The show is The Summer I Turned Pretty, and the book specifically is We'll Always Have Summer by Jenny Han. That's the third book in the Summer I Turned Pretty series. And so the trope that I'm talking about here is the wedding trope. It's not really like, I don't know if it's a trope, but what I'm trying to say is like, I always love it in series or books when like the main couple ends up planning a wedding or is like planning, you know, to get married and all of those things. Like, I love weddings in books. I think they're so fun. Case in point, one of my favorite books from one of my favorite YA contemporaries, Save the Date, literally takes place at a wedding. They're so fun. But I absolutely despised this book. I just felt like all the characters I knew completely changed. Jeremiah, who is, you know, I don't want to spoil it if you haven't like read the book yet, but in the synopsis, it tells you, here's your warning. In the synopsis, it tells you that Jeremiah is the groom, right? And they're planning this thing together. And oh my gosh, Jeremiah just felt like a totally different person. He did something horrible to Belly at the beginning of the book, and I feel like it was just so out of line, out of character. It was confusing and weird, and I can't believe that this actually happened in the series. So now I just try to pretend that it's not a part of the original canon. You know, it's not canonical, and it's just kind of like something fan fictional that I read. And the original canon is just the first book and the second book, and maybe like the last chapter of the third book. So yeah, love weddings in books, but I did not like We'll Always Have Summer by Jenny Han. Okay, I'm also kind of bending the rules here for the fourth question, but the question is, I hate this trope, but I loved this book. And it's not necessarily the trope that I dislike, more so like, I just don't read a lot of romance. It's not for me. I like women's fiction. I like YA contemporaries. I will die on the hill saying that they are different than romance, because they are. But overall, I'm not just like, I just don't, I don't know. Oftentimes I'll pick up a romance novel, and in my experience, like there have been a few that I like, but I've never had one that I've given like 5 stars, except for maybe the one by Allie Hazelwood, Something Experiment. Anyway, so overall, the Bridgerton series is one that I never thought that I would like, especially because I've seen bits of the show here, and it really just doesn't seem like something that I'd enjoy. But I really, really, really loved the book Romancing Mr. Bridgerton by Julia Quinn. It follows Colin and Penelope, and they, I hear, are going to be the focus of the latest season of the show. I might watch it because it is Colin and Penelope, and I love their dynamic so much. At least in the book I did. And so I'm excited to see how it plays out on screen. But given the changes that I've heard about in the show, I don't know if I'll like the show and how they kind of interpret this thing. And it might just have to be, you know, something that I enjoy in book form and not really watch or entertain outside of the book verse in my head. So yeah, overall, I didn't think I'd like it, but I really loved Romancing Mr. Bridgerton by Julia Quinn. So for this next question, it is, I love this author, but I didn't like this book. And Bookables, in her video, she said Riley Sager, and I totally agree with that one, because I really loved The Final Girls, which was, I think, Riley Sager's first book. And then I read Survive the Night, and it's such a bummer because I literally pre-ordered the book. I was so excited to read it. And then I did, and it was just not my cup of tea in the slightest. I felt like the writing was so overly descriptive. The pacing felt so slow. And the twist at the end just felt like a cheap shot, and I just did not like it at all. So that one. Question 6 is, I previously disliked a book by this author, but I love this book. And for this one, I'm going to say Night Road by Kristen Hanna. I tried reading The Great alone. I didn't fully finish it, but I read a lot and it just wasn't for me. However, I know a lot of people love Kristen Hanna, and so I attempted Night Road, and initially I was just like, I don't like this. I don't like the characters, I don't like whatever, but for some reason I kept reading, and by the end, like, there was just like a huge plot twist and so many things happened, and I I really love the book. It made me super emotional, and Kristen Hanna is definitely, I can understand why people love her so much. Okay, the next one is, I love this cover, but I didn't like this book. And so the cover I'm talking about at hand here is I think it's the US version of Every Summer After. Not this one that we have in Canada, which is so sad because I'm pretty sure the US cover was designed by someone who is Canadian, and that is so much prettier than this. But anyways, so I love that cover. It's like this beautiful painted type landscape cover. And I didn't necessarily dislike this book. I did like it. I just didn't like it as much as I thought. A lot of people were raving about it. It had a very buzzy release. It was quite famous on Book Talk over the summer, and all within good reason. It's just something happened towards the end that's like a non-negotiable for me. And when that happens in a book, I'm just so immediately turned off. And so, yeah, I was a little bit bitter about that, but I still didn't necessarily like write this book off overall. Like I like it still, like 3.5, maybe 3 out of 5 stars. The last question is, I don't like this cover, but I loved this book. And for this one, I'm gonna choose a book that was basically my last read of the year. I read another like small short story, which I added to my Goodreads challenge, you know, just to like make myself feel better. But overall, this was like the last book that I read in the year, and that is How Not to Drown in a Glass of Water by Angie Cruz. Angie Cruz wrote Dominicana, which is like one of my favorite books ever, I think. I absolutely loved that book. And so How Not to Drown in a Glass of Water is just as exceptional. She's just brilliant at creating these rich, complex characters and situations, and I love her book so much. But I feel so sad that they did her such a disservice with this cover. The original cover for, I think the original cover for Dominicana is so, so beautiful. It has like this girl looking out a window, beautiful font, and then you just have this, which is orange and blue with like different size font. I do not like it. So this book deserves a cover like Dominicana's. It is so stunning, and this one needs a cover that's stunning too. So yeah, that is the end of my video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.